Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again, as always, to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today up at Ashurst. It's currently about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm about to embark on a bit of a bank holiday bimble. And I've come to a place, Hot Potters, that I've not been to since I was a child, really. I used to come up to this area that I'm currently sat in with my father way back in the 1980s when he'd been bitten by the CBing bug, when it had been made legal in 1981, I believe, a long, long time ago. And I'm currently sat in the old jalopy in a car park, just not far away from a place called Ashurst Beacon, which was built in 1798 by Sir William Ashurst to guard against the then oncoming Napoleon Wars. The idea was that he'd build this beacon and to be a watchtower just in case those French hordes came invading, which they never did, thankfully. Anyway, I'm now going to get out of the old jalopy. I'll put some suitable footwear on and all that kind of jazz, and then I'm going to make my way up to Ashurst Beacon and just soak in all the memories, really. Now, why did my dad come to this particular part of Wigan to do his CBing? Well, when I get out of the old jalopy in a moment, I'll show you why. So, without further ado, let's do this, shall we? And, Hot Potters, the reason my father used to come up here to this little remote location back in the day with his CB radio was so that he could get a signal out as far as he could. We're sort of on the other side of an hill known as Parbold Hill, which is quite prominent here in Wigan. And his idea was to get the other side of it so that nothing would be in the way of him getting his signal out. He used to do a thing called DXing, which rather than just sitting in his house talking to somebody in next street via rig, he'd come out to somewhere like this and try and get copies, as they call them, and communicate with people as far as he could. He even had someone one day coming through on what they call the skip from France. Unfortunately, he just couldn't make contact with that person, but yeah, fair play to him. He used to be able to get out there on 3 watts of power as it used to be back in the day. Unfortunately, all these trees have sprung up in the 40 or so years since I was last up here, and they've spoilt the view somewhat. But other than that, it's as I remember it. Right then, Hot Potters, I think I'm going to park up the old jalopy somewhere else and continue our video from there, because one thing that there wasn't back in the 1980s, or certainly I didn't remember, was an unusual amount of gentlemen sat alone in the vehicles, just seemingly up to no good. No idea what that's all about. I've had one gentleman try and approach the car and I basically fucked him off. So we're going to get out of Dodge now, and I'm going to go and park the vehicle up somewhere else. I don't know, how times have changed. Right, join me in a little while. So, Hot Potters, if memory serves me correct, there should be a little footpath, which I'm now on, that leads up from that car park up to the main road, which we'll need to cross. And then we go through a gate, and it leads up to the beacon itself. Well, I'm now at the road, which you can just see there. Hopefully I can get across before I get squished, and indeed there is that gate. So my memory isn't failing me just yet, you know, not lost my marbles just yet, Hot Potters. And as I say, I have a lot of fantastic memories of coming to places like this. My father, with being heavily into CBing, and as I've explained, used to try to get to high spots to throw his signal out from his old jalopy at the time, a Triumph Herald 1968 model, I think it was. And he used to come up to places like this, and he introduced me to all these sort of places. I didn't know they existed, obviously, with only being, what, 8 or 9 years of age back then. And I think that's where my love of the countryside and all that comes from, to be honest. And I try to do the same thing with my own son. And it's only now that I've become a father myself that I've realised that you just don't have the same time for yourself once you become a parent. So, looking back, maybe I tormented my dad, because I'll be honest, Hot Potters, I used to idolise my dad when I was a kid. Once I hit that awkward teenage years, I went through a phase where I rebelled against him. no doubt that'll happen with my own son. But when I was younger, I idolised him. I always wanted to be around him. And little Toby's followed in my footsteps. He always wants to be around me. And that's why I don't get the chance to make the videos the same. It's just simply a matter of time. And Toby's now at that age where he wants to get involved. But he spoils the videos a little bit. No offence to him, you know, he's just excited and he just wants to do what his dad's doing. But I must have ruined my father's hobbies back in the day. But we're now approaching the clearing where we should be able to see Ashurst Beacon. So I'll just carefully make my way through and hopefully we should see it stood there, silhouetted against the sky. And I was always intrigued by this little structure, and my dad always said that it was a beacon and it was built there to protect against, at the time, the Anglo-Spanish War, which was in the 1500s, the Spanish Armada, just in case they came. But it wasn't, it was built here. Bloody hell, that scared me. I don't know, that was a bit of a girly laugh, wasn't it? I do apologise. But we're now approaching the beacon itself. I'll whip the camera and you should just be able to see it. And hot potters, it's just as I remember it. Little stone box with a triangle on top. It's a beautiful morning this morning. Unfortunately there is a bit of wind about. We are on a high spot. Be no good sticking a beacon in a low point, would it? And as we get up closer, I'll whip the camera round and we'll take a good look at this structure. And here we are, hot potters. I do apologise for it being silhouetted there, but it does resemble a little church and spire. I'll try and get a better handle regarding the light. Some stone steps there leading to that doorway, and we can't read that plaque today, so I'll stick a photo in for you now of what it says. Basically, it's an old throwback to the days before Wigan Council, pre-1974, and Wigan Council was then called Wigan Corporation, and that's what that plaque is commemorating. A lady put it up there to dedicate the memory of her husband, and that this land that we're now stood on would be forever here for the enjoyment of the people of Wigan. Obviously, with the boundary changes, all that has altered. This area now lies on the fringes of Wigan, as opposed to being within its boundaries. It's one of those funny places, this now, hot potters, that sort of lies on the boundaries of Skelmersdale and Wigan. Now, I've no idea what it looks like inside there. There's no photographs online of what it looks like. I should imagine very similar to the one up on Billinge Hill, which I'll put a link in now if you haven't seen that video. It'll just be a bit of a room, and it would have just been up here as shelter for the men who was keeping watch against the French hordes. There is a few names up on that spire, and one of them there, Mike Martin, I don't think you can see that with the camera, it says 2022. Goodness knows how he's got up there, but he's somehow managed it. And it looks like there's been hinges on here, so there would have been a door on here at one time. And down the years people have come up here and carved the names in. Vandalism has always been a problem, hot potters, it would seem. That looks like it needs a bit of remedial work doing at it. Yeah. It's amazing that this has stood here, admittedly since right at the end of the 18th century, but it's still here. Lots of footpaths in this area lead off down into the wooded areas. We've had windows on, and I wonder if these hinges for this was to provide shelter for whoever was keeping watch here, or whether the idea was this would actually become a fighting position. Sadly, the graffiti artists have come up here with the spray cans, which is a shame, really. Just make my way back down here and we'll have another walk around it. But yeah, my father always told me that this was built here to basically protect against the Spanish Armada, which at the time, as a young kid, I had no idea. The 1500s sounded a long, long way off, and I just took it in. But this has been built on the site. There used to be so many beacons, Billing Hill being one of them, Parbold Hill, not far from where I'm stood, was another, and they went all the way from Everton Brow, overlooking Liverpool, all the way up to Lancaster Castle to protect. The idea being that if they saw the hordes coming from whichever direction, they would light the beacon, and the next one in the line would see that it had been lit, and they would light theirs, and so on and so forth. Would have been a bit of a bugger if your matches were damp, wouldn't it? And it looks like there's a metal spike being knocked in at the top there. Obviously, a bit of a lightning conductor. There is an information board up here telling you all about this, which is where Hot Potters I got some of my information from. Now, this hill that we're currently stood on used to be known, and on the old OS maps it's known as Ashurst Hill, but because of the beacon nobody calls it Ashurst Hill anymore. It's just known as Ashurst Beacon, so it's lost that name, as you can see on this notice board here. Apparently this beacon stands at 173 metres above sea level. Then it gives you some of the nature that's in and around here that lives in this habitat. And just to prove my point there, you can see an old excerpt from one of the OS maps, and it does indeed say Ashurst Hill. A little bit of something over there that wasn't there when I was a kid. So I'm gonna take a bit of a bimble over there, Hot Potters, and see what that's all about. So join me in a moment. Still no idea what this little structure is, although it does appear that someone has had a bit of a fire there and doing a bit of camping. Unfortunately, it looks like they've been taking some of the fencing down there, which is a big no-no if you're going to be camping. You shouldn't leave any trace. Ah, I see what it is now. It's one of those discs that tells you all the viewpoints that you can see from here. Sadly, these trees have since grown. But supposedly, you can see Blackpool Tower from this spot on a clear day, which is 21 miles from where we stood. Unfortunately, until they come and cut down the trees, I don't think we'll be seeing very much from this viewpoint, although you can just see one or two things there on the horizon through the trees. Back there is Ashurst Beacon. Amazing, I love these sort of curiosities, Hot Potters, that the northwest seems to be abundance of. And it is a lovely morning, and it's lovely and peaceful here. There isn't anyone. Right then, with a closing shot of Ashurst Beacon, I think I'm going to make my way, Hot Potters, to a public house that me and my father used to go in, and he used to buy me a bottle of lemonade back in the day, and it won't be open at this time in the morning. It's now about 7:30 as I'm making this, but it'll be nice to just revisit it and take in all those memories. And no trip to Ashurst Beacon, Hot Potters, would be complete without a visit to the Prince of Wales public house, which we used to come here for some light refreshment, non-alcoholic for Mr H, of course, at that time. And sadly, it's gone the way of the dodo. It's all boarded up today, and the car park is rather abandoned. I do have a picture of myself when I was younger, sat on that picket fence, as it used to be, surrounding that cricket club. We'll take a little look around this former public house while we're here. And today it's just overgrown and abandoned. I think this place closed due to the pandemic. It just couldn't stay open. Make a bonny house though, that. No doubt it will be turned into flats or something like that. This is the entranceway where Mr H would have come through with my father back in the day. And they've still left up a picture of the Prince of Wales. And above it there's a date stone. WES 1808, I think that is. You can see the vandals have moved in here. Somebody smashed the defibrillator there. And obviously taking the contents, I should imagine. But you can see that this is still a bonny building. Hanging baskets still surviving there. Then over here you have the gateway that would lead to the cellar area. Steps there that obviously lead up to the living quarters. I'll just nip up them. Yeah, through that door there would have been the entrance to the living quarters. I think Marsden's Brewery had this the last time, and they've now put it on the market. Although I can't see a for sale sign anywhere. Look at all this rubbish. Old stool there from the bar. Who knows, maybe a young Mr H's bum sat on that back in the day. Then we've got a bit of a shed here. Surprised that's not been stolen. And some old placemats for the tables. And then through here, a bit of beer garden. You can just see the remains of some tables there that are broken. And there used to be a little kiddies play park through here. I wonder if it's still here. Just make our way through this undergrowth. And we'll see if there's still some equipment in here. Quite a bit of land to this place. And yes, the equipment's still there. It won't be the same equipment as I played on as a child, but there's still equipment here. Looks like somebody's been enjoying a alcoholic beverage in here at some point. And then we've got a climbing frame here, which would have been for the kiddies. Surprised that's not been taken out and reappropriated. Just like these swings here. Make our way back to the pub itself and have a look around the back. I have very fond memories of coming up here as a child. It's just a shame as all this has closed down and is abandoned. I think we can get in round here. The problem with these places is the moment someone finds out they're empty, the thieves and vandals move in. And it doesn't take long, does it, Hot Potters? Nice little seating area where back in the day Mr H would have enjoyed a lemonade. Then through here would lead back into the pub itself. No idea where that goes, Hot Potters. Probably round to the back of the pub, or round to the front of the pub, should I say. Such a shame. Used to be a bonny place, this, back in the day. And if you used to come here to the Prince of Wales pub, why not leave your comments below of your memories of this place. Right then, I'm going to make my way back out of here, and I think we'll wrap this video up. Well, Hot Potters, that will just about do it for today. Hope you've enjoyed this little bimble around Ashurst Beacon and taking a look at some of the memories from Mr H's childhood. Now, before I end this video, I just want to correct a bit of a mistake that I've made. When I've been walking around this public house, or this former public house that's behind me, I refer to it as the Prince of Wales. It isn't called the Prince of Wales, it's actually called the Prince William. It does seem that the old memories have faded somewhat. I wasn't interested in what the pub was called. I was only interested in going on that little play park with a bottle of lemonade back in the day. Anyway, that'll do it for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm out of here. I'm going to head off back home now, and I think we're going to have a bit of a barbecue today because the weather's looking quite good. So I'll be doing that, and then in the evening, editing up this video ready for your edification. So folks, all that's left for me to say is, until the next time, from myself, Mr H, it is bye-bye for now. Let's get back warm.